The strange trade. The stars looked cold from the cockpit window, but Jaxon didn't mind. He had flown through worse. As a human scavenger and part-time trader, he lived day by day, flying his old cargo ship through forgotten parts of the galaxy. That day, he was at the border station of Karen 6, trading scrap metal and spare ship parts. While checking his cargo log, Jaxon heard a loud argument in the corner of the market. An old alien merchant with cracked scales was shouting at three angry-looking buyers. One of the buyers pushed the merchant hard, knocking over a small crate. Jaxon didn't like bullies. He walked over calmly and asked, "Problem here?" The merchant's eyes lit up with hope. "Please, these men want my cargo for free. They say I owe them." Jaxon looked at the men. They were heavily armed bounty hunters. "Walk away," Jaxon said simply. His voice was quiet, but firm. They laughed. "And who are you, human?" Jaxon didn't answer. He just tapped the side of his belt. A mini blaster hummed. The bounty hunters muttered some curses and left. Jaxon helped the merchant to his feet. "You saved me," the merchant said, shaking. "I have nothing left to offer except her." He pointed to a small cage behind his stall. Inside sat a young female alien. She was dirty, bruised, and silent. Chains bound her ankles and wrists. Her skin was pale lavender, her eyes a bright silver that stared at nothing. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. Jaxon frowned. "I don't buy slaves." The merchant shook his head quickly. "She's not for sale, she's a gift. Please, she's trouble, you helped me. Take her, just take her." Jaxon looked again. The girl didn't move. She looked more like a ghost than a person. He wanted to walk away. But then the girl slowly turned her head. Her silver eyes locked onto his. For a second, something passed between them. Fear, pain, something deeper. "I don't want her," Jaxon said softly. "But I can't leave her here either." He opened the cage and gently touched her shoulder. She flinched. "Come with me," he said. She didn't speak. She only stood up slowly and followed him. Back on his ship, the girl sat in the corner of the cargo bay, hugging her knees. Jaxon brought her clean clothes and food. She didn't touch either. "What's your name?" he asked. No answer. He sighed. "All right, I'm Jaxon. I don't know what they did to you, but you're safe here. No chains." He placed a key on the floor near her. It would unlock her cuffs. He didn't force her. He just walked away. Later that night, as Jaxon cleaned the cockpit, he heard a small sound. He turned and saw her standing there, her chains now gone, the key in her hand. She didn't run. Instead, she looked around the ship, her eyes carefully studying every panel, every control. Jaxon found that odd. She moved like she knew ships, more than a slave ever should. "Still not talking?" he asked. She shook her head. "Just once." "Well," Jaxon said, stretching, "I guess I've had worse company." She looked at him again, and this time her lips moved just slightly. Not enough to speak, but maybe, just maybe, enough to begin a story far bigger than Jaxon ever imagined. A story that started with a simple trade, and a girl who was not what she seemed. The silent passenger. The ship was quiet. Too quiet. Jaxon sat at the main console, checking engine stats. But his eyes kept drifting toward the dark hallway where she had disappeared the night before. She hadn't said a word. Not one. No name. No question. No thank you. Just silence. Still, Jaxon left her alone. He had seen many broken souls in the galaxy. Refugees, slaves, war victims. But this girl was different. Something in her didn't just seem scared. It seemed trained, and that bothered him. That morning, Jaxon left her food and clean clothes near her door. When he checked later, the food was gone and the clothes were missing. Still no sign of her. Still no voice. But that night, as he lay half asleep in his bunk, he heard something. A click. A beep. Then silence. Jaxon quietly reached for the blaster under his pillow. He crept down the hallway barefoot, moving like a shadow. The sound had come from the cargo bay. He opened the door slowly. There she was. She stood near a hidden maintenance panel on the wall, one only a trained engineer or pilot would know about. Her hand hovered near the controls. Her eyes widened. When she saw him, Jaxon pointed the blaster down, not at her. "That panel's for emergency power systems," he said calmly. "How do you know about it?" The girl didn't answer. She just stood still, breathing hard. "Are you trying to steal my ship?" Jaxon asked. She shook her head slowly. "Then what?" She looked down. "I was checking if it's real." Her voice was soft, dry, like someone who hadn't spoken in weeks, but clear. Jaxon lowered his blaster. "Real?" She finally looked him in the eyes. "Freedom." They sat in the kitchen later. Jaxon gave her water. She drank it slowly. "My name is Jaxon," he said again. "What's yours?" She hesitated. "Rayla. Rayla." He repeated it softly. "How long were you trapped?" Rayla didn't answer. Instead, she asked a question of her own, soft but heavy. "Why did you take me?" Jaxon blinked. "I didn't want to. I don't believe in owning people, but you looked like you had no choice. So I gave you one." Rayla studied him carefully, as if trying to find lies in his words. She found none. "You could have sold me," she whispered, "to someone richer." "I don't sell people either," she nodded slowly, then surprised him with another question. "Have you ever heard of the Seraphim?" Jaxon frowned. "Yeah, big royal family. Fancy people with gold blood. Rule over 6 star systems." Rayla looked down. "They destroyed my life." Something changed in her voice then. Not just pain, but anger. Deep, buried anger. Jaxon felt a chill. "You knew them?" Rayla stood up. "More than you think." And with that, she walked back to her room and locked the door. Jaxon stared after her, his mind racing. Who was she really? And why did she look at the emergency systems like she once owned them? The hunter ships. Jaxon was repairing a broken wire near the engine core when the ship suddenly jolted. Too sudden, too clean. Not a system failure. A second later, red lights flashed across the control panel. Unmarked vessel detected. No transponder signal. Locking on scanner beam. Jaxon ran to the cockpit. Outside the window, a dark gray ship hovered, silent and deadly. No lights, no markings. It wasn't trying to talk. It was scanning. Then it vanished into stealth mode. Jackson's heart pounded. Not pirates. Too advanced, he muttered. Behind him a voice spoke. "They've found me." He turned. Rayla stood at the door, her silver eyes calm but full of fear. "What do you mean they?" Jaxon asked. She didn't answer right away. She moved closer, to the screen, staring at the spot where the enemy ship had been. "They're not hunting you," she said. "They're hunting me." Jaxon threw the ship into silent drift and dropped into the nearby asteroid field. The rocks were sharp, spinning, deadly, but he had no choice. The ship following them had tech far beyond anything he'd seen. Rayla didn't sit or panic. Instead, she closed her eyes and murmured numbers, exact asteroid coordinates, as if she had memorized this path before. Jaxon followed her instructions. They weaved through tight rock tunnels like ghosts in space. "You've done this before," he said. "Yes," she whispered. Jackson's head turned sharply. "Who are you really, Rayla?" She didn't reply. Suddenly, another alarm. A small black probe latched onto the side of the ship. Jaxon cursed. "We're tagged!" He ran back, pulled open the maintenance panel, and aimed his plasma cutter at the hull. The probe was trying to drill in. Rayla appeared beside him. "Don't blast it," she warned. "Its sensor will explode." "How do you know?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pressed 3 buttons on a nearby terminal. A hidden signal burst from the ship, coded in old Seraphim military frequencies. The probe blinked, then detached itself and floated off. Jaxon stared at her, stunned. Only someone with royal codes could have done that. Rayla's face went pale. He stepped closer. Rayla, are you? I didn't want you involved, she said quickly. But now you are. You helped me. That means you're Mark II. Jaxon slowly nodded. You're not just some runaway, are you? No, she whispered. I'm the last blood, heir. A long silence filled the ship. Jaxon sat down hard in the pilot's seat. The Seraphim princess? You? She gave a small nod. My uncle staged a silent coup. He sold me off to silence my claim. If the galaxy finds out I'm still alive, he loses everything. Jaxon chuckled bitterly. I rescued a royal. Great. Now I'm on every bounty list in 5 systems. You can still leave me, Rayla said. He looked up. And let those hunter ships capture you again? Not a chance. Rayla looked at him for a long time, then she smiled. Just a little. For the first time. But it didn't last long. The scanner beeped again. Another ship, Jaxon said grimly. Closer this time. Rayla's eyes narrowed. Then we don't run. Jaxon blinked. We don't? She stepped forward. We fight. Her blood was golden. The second ship wasn't just fast, it was smart. It matched every move Jaxon made, dodging asteroids with perfect timing. He could feel it getting closer, pressing harder, watching from the shadows like a silent predator. Rayla stood behind him, her hand resting on the seat. She didn't panic, her voice was steady. Take us into the storm zone, I'll handle the rest. Jaxon frowned. The storm zone? That's suicide. The gravity waves can crush small ships. Rayla's eyes glowed faintly under the red emergency lights. They'll follow us, but only one of us knows how to survive it. Jaxon didn't ask more questions. He pushed the ship forward into the swirling storm zone, a region of space with violent energy spikes, plasma whirlpools, and strange magnetic winds. Only smugglers and madmen ever flew through it. The ship shook violently. Sparks flew from the ceiling, the engines howled. Jaxon focused on flying. But Rayla disappeared. Rayla, he shouted. He turned and found her crawling through a side maintenance hatch toward the ship's core, dragging a toolkit with her. She wasn't trained like a slave. She moved like someone who knew every inch of the ship's systems. Calm, focused. Fast suddenly, boom! A plasma surge hit them hard. Metal panels ripped open. Jaxon was thrown against the side wall. The power lights went black. He groaned and tried to stand, but then he saw her. Rayla was slumped over, her arm cut open by a broken pipe. Her blood spilled out, but it wasn't red. It glowed like molten gold. Jaxon froze. For a full second, he couldn't move. He'd heard stories of the royal line, the Seraphim Goldbloods. Beings with golden blood that shimmered like fire and proved divine ancestry. Only one family in the galaxy had it. And Rayla had it. He rushed to her side and gently lifted her. Hey, stay awake, I've got you. She blinked slowly, her silver eyes dim. You weren't supposed to see that, she whispered. You're bleeding gold. Jaxon said, panicking. That's not normal. I told you. I'm the last true heir. He patched her up quickly with a pressure wrap and a cooling salve from the medkit. Why didn't you tell me before? I didn't know if I could trust you. Jaxon shook his head. You trusted me enough to jump into a storm zone, that counts. With Rayla unconscious in the back, Jaxon rerouted emergency power. The ship limped through the storm field, its outer shields flickering. The hunter ship didn't follow. Cowards, he smiled bitterly. Only royalty would choose to run into death to survive. As they exited the storm zone, Rayla stirred. Her voice was weak but clear. There's something you should know. Jaxon turned. You've told me enough secrets for one day. But she grabbed his wrist. No. Listen. He leaned in. If I die, there's a hidden vault in the Archon Belt. Only my blood can open it. Inside are the codes to take back my throne. Jaxon blinked. You really are a princess. I'm not just a princess, she whispered. I'm the key to war, or peace. Jaxon stood there in silence as her breathing slowed, her golden blood still glowing faintly under the wrap. He wasn't just flying a runaway slave anymore. He was flying with the most dangerous girl in the galaxy. And now, everyone would want her back, dead or alive. Trust or trap, Jaxon stared at the stars outside the window, but his mind was heavy. Rayla was resting in the medbed behind him, her golden blood still pulsing softly under the skin patches. She looked peaceful, but he knew peace wouldn't last long. The message she gave him before fainting still rang in his ears. There's a vault in the Archon Belt. Only my blood can open it. It holds the power to reclaim the Seraphim throne. That meant one thing. She wasn't just royalty. She was hope or chaos depending on who reached her first. A transmission alert blinked on the screen. Jaxon pressed it. To all vessels within 500 clicks. Be advised. The human traitor Jaxon Kale is now wanted by the Seraphim Guard for abducting. Royal blood, reward, 2 million credits, dead or alive. Jaxon froze. The message repeated again. His face, his ship, and Rayla's image were now out there, for every bounty hunter, pirate, and desperate soul to see. He cursed under his breath and cut the transmission. He didn't ask for this. He didn't want to be part of any royal war. But it was too late. When Rayla woke, her voice was weak. You saw it? Jaxon didn't turn around. Yeah, I saw it. You're now the galaxy's most wanted. I told you to leave me, she said quietly. He turned then. And let the Empire drag you back in chains or silence you forever. She looked away. I'm sorry I pulled you into this. You didn't pull me. I stepped in. He sat down, across from her. But now I need to know. How do I know this isn't a trap? Maybe you're using me. Maybe there is no vault. She met his eyes, calm but sad. Then drop me off. Right now. I won't stop you. Jaxon studied her face. No, lies, no fear, just someone too tired to pretend. He stood up. I've flown alone for years, took jobs no one wanted, saved junk no one needed, but this... He looked out the window. This finally means something. Rayla blinked. You believe me? No, he said. But I believe in doing the right thing. He reached for the throttle. We're going to the Archon Belt. Hours later, they landed on a frozen moon to refuel. The atmosphere was thin, the ground white with crystal snow. While Jaxon repaired a damaged thruster, Rayla wandered to the ridge of a small hill. She stared out into the distance, snowflakes brushing against her glowing skin. She looked free, but also heavy, like her soul carried galaxies. Suddenly, movement. From the shadows behind the ice rocks, 4 figures in armor crept forward. Jaxon saw them too late. A flash of light, stun darts fired. One dart hit Rayla in the back. She fell, eyes wide in shock. The others rushed her. Jaxon pulled his blaster and ran forward, heart racing. Get away from her! Shots fired. One armored bounty hunter went down. The others returned fire. Jaxon dodged, rolled, and hit a second one. Sparks flew from the enemy's chest plate. But then, a blade slashed across Jaxon's shoulder. He cried out and dropped to one knee. The third attacker raised his weapon. Then something impossible happened. Rayla, stunned and half-conscious, reached up and touched the attacker's face. A glow burst from her palm. The bounty hunter screamed and fell, blinded by a light that came not from Tech, but from her. Jaxon grabbed her and dragged her back to the ship. They flew off seconds before more. Bounty signals arrived. Inside the ship, Jaxon collapsed next to her, breathing hard. You glowed. Rayla looked at him weakly. It's the blood. Royal blood isn't just rare. It's power. He nodded slowly. Then let's protect it. Until we reach the vault. She smiled for the first time. You're not like other humans. He grinned. And you're not like any princess. The hidden throne. The Archon Belt was silent. Not like peaceful silent, ancient silent. Broken moons drifted like bones of dead giants. Shadows twisted through the floating rocks. Somewhere among them was something no map showed. The Seraphim vault, guarded by time and tech older than most civilizations. Jaxon piloted carefully, following Rayla's instructions. Her face was pale, but her voice steady. Left between the twin asteroids, then down. Look for the one shaped like a crown. Jaxon raised a brow. You memorized this place? Rayla didn't answer, but the sadness in her eyes said yes. They reached the asteroid she spoke of. It did look like a broken crown, black stone points jutting upward. As they circled around it, a hidden door blinked open. No code, no signal, just reacting to her presence. The ship passed through a tunnel of metal and rock. At the end was a landing pad, smooth, silver, and untouched by time. Jaxon landed the ship and stepped out first. His boots crunched on the strange floor. Rayla followed slowly. As they walked deeper into the darkness, lights turned on by themselves, one after the other. They entered a wide chamber. The walls were lined with glowing circuits like veins of light. At the center stood a tall black throne, and two ancient sentinels, motionless, with silver armor and eyes like stars. Jaxon raised his blaster. Rayla whispered, "Wait." The sentinels suddenly moved. Both raised their arms and spoke in a deep voice, not from their mouths, but from the walls themselves. "Identify blood code." Rayla stepped forward. She bit her thumb, letting a drop of her golden blood fall onto a small crystal at the base of the throne. The lights flared. The ground rumbled. The sentinels dropped to one knee. "Welcome, High Princess Rayla Seraphim. Access granted." Jaxon lowered his blaster slowly. "You weren't lying." Rayla gave him a weak smile. "I told you. This place remembers the true bloodline." A hologram appeared before them, an old Seraphim general. "To the rightful heir, inside this vault are royal records, emergency war codes, hidden fleet, coordinates, and the final decree of King Althon. Your father." Rayla gasped. "Father?" Jaxon looked at her. "You never told me he was a king." "He was killed before I turned 12, she whispered. "I thought his secrets died with him." They spent hours unlocking files, gathering ancient royal codes, maps, and the location of a hidden rebel fleet that remained loyal to the Seraphim name. At one point, Rayla found an old data crystal with a personal message recorded by her father. She played it. "Rayla, if you're seeing this, then our home has fallen. You must run, hide, but one day you must return. You are more than a daughter. You are the last light of our people." Her hands trembled. Jaxon gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone anymore." Suddenly, alarms screamed. One of the sentinels stood up sharply. "Unauthorized life form detected." Jaxon turned fast. "What?" The hologram shattered. Figure stepped into the chamber. Black cloak, metallic boots, a bounty hunter, but not just any. This one was equipped with Seraphim armor, stolen, corrupted. He smiled. "Found you." Rayla stepped in front of Jaxon. "You're too late." The hunter raised a rifle. "Not if I kill you and take your blood." Before he could fire, Jaxon tackled him hard, knocking the weapon away. The two crashed to the floor. Blades, punches, sparks. The hunter was stronger, faster, but Jaxon had one thing he didn't, something to protect. Rayla touched the throne again. "Activate Guardian Protocol." The throne's base opened, and from it rose an ancient royal suit of armor, silver, glowing, human-sized. Jaxon crawled over, blood on his lip, and slipped it on. The armor fused to him perfectly. The hunter laughed, until Jackson's punch sent him flying across the chamber. Within seconds, it was over. Jaxon stood breathing hard. The hunter lay unconscious. Rayla looked at him. "You wore it like it was made for you." Jaxon smirked. Maybe fate has a strange sense of humor. Princess no more. The throne room was quiet again. The bounty hunter lay unconscious, chained by the very sentinels who once guarded kings. Rayla stood tall before the ancient throne, no longer a runaway, no longer a slave. She was something else now. A symbol. A spark. Jaxon stepped forward, still wearing the shining seraphim armor. It felt heavy on his body, but it fit like it belonged. He looked at her. So, now what? You've got the codes, the fleets, the throne. You ready to start a war? Rayla didn't answer at first. She looked down at the glowing crystal floor beneath her feet. Maybe war isn't the answer. Maybe something else is. Jaxon crossed his arms. You think your uncle's just going to surrender when he hears you're alive? She turned. No. But I won't fight him with fear. I'll fight with truth. The next day they traveled to a hidden rebel broadcast tower deep in the Voss. Nebula. From there, Rayla sent a message to the entire Seraphim Empire, across all 6 star systems. The hologram of her face appeared in every port, palace, prison, and slum. I am Rayla Seraphim, daughter of King Althon. I was sold, chained, hidden, but I survived. I carry the blood of peace, and I now call on all loyal hearts to rise, not with violence but with truth. The Empire must remember what it was before fear took the throne. The galaxy stopped. Some cheered, some wept, some raged, but no one ignored her. In the days that followed, rebel forces began to rise. Secret fleets hidden by her father responded with loyalty. The Empire's guards hesitated at their posts. The lie had been broken, and all because of one trade, one mistake. One human who said yes when he could have walked away. On a quiet hill beneath the twin suns of Meraxes III, Rayla stood wearing her full royal armor. But her crown lay in her hands. Jaxon approached her slowly. You did it, he said. She nodded. We did, he smiled. So, do I have to kneel now? Rayla laughed gently. I think you've earned the right to stay on your feet. They looked out over the valley where flags of old Seraphim fluttered again. Jaxon cleared his throat. The people want a queen, someone strong, someone with golden blood. They'll get her, Rayla said. He waited. She turned. But what, about you? Jaxon looked up at the sky. I'm not a hero. I'm not a leader. I'm just a guy with an old ship and an even older blaster. She stepped closer. Then stay. Be my shield, my guide, my truth. He paused. I don't belong on a throne. You don't have to. She reached out and held his hand. You belong beside it. In that moment, the stars didn't feel cold anymore, and Jaxon realized he hadn't just saved a girl. He had helped awaken a galaxy, and in return, the galaxy gave him something he never expected, a place, a purpose, and someone who truly saw him.